Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is season 5, episode 26. My name's Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. Today I'm talking to Allison, a longtime listener of the podcast who lives in Tacoma, Washington, and works as a biologist for a science agency there. Allison actually, of course, has misophonia, but also a remarkable number of her family members have it as well. Some in denial, but it is definitely all over her family. We talk about the dynamics there, what family events are like, what it was like growing up before any of them knew this was a thing. And then we also talk about things like her workplace and being nudged back into the office post-COVID. Really interesting episode. Allison is also an artist, and I'll link to her Instagram in the show notes and on social media. Quick reminder, you can reach me on Instagram or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast, or shoot me an email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com. You can help the podcast by sharing or leaving a quick review or rating wherever you listen to the show. And if you feel like contributing a little bit financially, we also have a Patreon page where I'm giving away swag, and you can learn more there at patreon.com/Misophonia Podcast. All right, here's my conversation with Allison. Allison, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, yeah, you want to tell us kind of whereabouts are you?
I'm in Tacoma, Washington, the Great Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
I've been here for about a year, but I have never left Washington since I went to college up here. I'm originally from Oregon.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my first job out of college was in Seattle, and I kind of definitely miss that whole area. I feel like maybe I'll have to come back at some point.
Yeah, this last year, 18 months during COVID has been interesting for me because I'm getting to work from home instead of being at a big cubicle land office. So things have been a little different for me trigger-wise, working from home than working at an office every day.
Right. And other than probably neighbors and whatnot, do you have any like a human or other people you're living with, or it's pretty independent?
I live alone. I have a corgi puppy, and she's 6 months old. Hopefully you can't hear her in the background. I tried to give her a treat to distract her while I was on the call.
Yeah. No, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
So mostly just some neighbor stuff.
Yeah. So then, are you going to be, do you think you'll be transitioning back into an office environment, or are you going to be able to kind of keep a lot of this?
Well, my agency is, kind of nudging people to start coming back.
It's going to be interesting.
The office I work at, we call it the Death Star because it's just this huge concrete building in Olympia in our capital, and it's just cubicles on top of cubicles, and you have to pay for parking to work there, and no other office. Yeah, no other employees in our agency have to pay for parking, but we do, and so it's kind of like, well, why would we come back and have to pay for parking?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting place to be with the agency.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But overall, the last 18 months for you have been must be pretty all right if you're able to really, for a lot of us, it's about control of our environment, and you're probably able to control it, as much as you're able to control your puppy.
Yeah, so I bought.
They might not be a trigger. So I don't know.
No, she's not, unless she does certain things. Like, I don't know why I did this, but I bought her like a sensory licking mat, and you like put peanut butter on it. And sometimes I'm like, okay, Penelope, that's enough of that. Like, you got it all.
Right.
But mostly she doesn't annoy me, which is interesting because other people's dogs annoy me sometimes. Like if they're constantly licking or something.
Gotcha.
So I'm kind of seeing that pattern. It's like, okay, if it's like my own thing, it doesn't annoy me.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's someone else's thing, it annoys me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess and then before, like when you were in the like what was going on before? Was it a lot of it's been a lot of office triggers, maybe even like social triggers with friends, like before all this started happening, COVID wise.
Yeah. So our office is like open floor plan cubicles and um everyone it's weird. It's like I don't think it's very professional, but people eat at their desks. And so there's someone you're like back to back with that's eating at their desk. And it
You
could
know, they
be
probably think it's more
any
professional because they feel like they're getting more done, which is the irony of it.
I know. But like I had a coworker that would eat popcorn all day long. Like that was his
What?
thing that got him through the day. Yeah. Or there's someone unidentified, like 3 rows over, that would clip their nails
Oh
all the
yeah,
time
God,
in the
yeah.
office. And luckily that one was like people would look at me and also be like, what the hell is going on? Like that is so
Mm-hmm.
weird. But that really got me. There was another guy that would brush his teeth at his cubicle
Oh God.
and like spit the water into his garbage can.
Oh my
So
God.
I don't know if it's just like scientists, biologists, and like they're just on a freer level at the office, but just some really appalling things going on our floor.
Right.
That makes it
They
really
think
hard to concentrate.
everything's a petri dish. It seems
Yeah.
at your
Eating in
scientific
meetings.
agency. Yeah.
Yeah, like I had to ask my supervisor at one point, can we please not do lunch meetings anymore? Like it was like the only time we would have like we have a 5 person group and he always wanted to make it a lunch meeting. And I finally had to tell him like, look, I have these triggers and I really can't concentrate during the meeting if it's a lunch meeting. And I think he tried to accommodate it a little bit, but people would bring their snacks to any time of day we were meeting, so it kind of didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, the way you either accommodate or you don't. You basically say no food or
Yeah,
you let food in. I mean, it's kind of a interesting. Okay. Was that your kind of your only attempt
that's
that
my.
you've I know.
Sorry, my puppy is barking at me.
Is that was that the kind of the only time you've tried to kind of ask for accommodation? Have there been other times that you tried to make something happen?
I I was at a point before COVID happened where I was thinking about like this really is uh a disorder and an issue that I should be able to ask for accommodations.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was
under
like starting
ADA
to
for
think
sure.
about, yeah, I was starting to think about that and, you know, what my next step would be because I just hated being at the office and I just couldn't concentrate. But then we got sent home and the only
Problem
other
solved.
real attempts, yeah,
Right.
the only other real attempts at the office were like I told some of my coworkers that are, um, they're coworkers, but they're close friends of mine too. And that was that always kind of backfires. It's like
Oh,
people
okay.
think it's a joke.
Right.
They're like,
Well, so what
really?
happened?
No.
Oh, so they
They
start
like
to mock you
then
and
comes
stuff?
the yeah, oh yeah, then comes the teasing and um it's just not taken seriously.
And not just the first time. It's like, okay, I mean, I can well, I almost expect the joking and teasing the first time, but if they're You would think that adults would kind of, you know, act like adults after that. Did that not happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it's also just kind of isolating and makes you feel like people think you don't like them. Like
Right.
my work group, we would have to go to meetings and they would all want to carpool in one Explorer with like five people. And I knew that that was going to be like way too much for me.
You're like, I'll sit
And
on
so
the
I
roof.
would always like, yeah, I was always like, well, I'll try to find a reason to drive my own truck there. And maybe I'll take one other person with me. But I always avoided like the group
Yeah.
carpool, which I'm sure made people think like, oh, she doesn't like us. And so it's like this weird social thing
You're
that
right.
comes from the misophonia. When it's just like, I don't know how to explain that it's like self preservation that I cannot
Yeah.
sit in this car and like listen to you guys snacks the whole time
Right.
or or not have my own control if I'm not driving.
Right. Right. Um,
Yeah.
well, okay. Maybe just put your work on the back burner for a little bit here. Yeah, it sounds
Sure.
like n- uh, not the not the most accommodative at the moment. But let's maybe rewind back, and then I think we're going to rewind even further back than you. But yeah, curious, kind of like early days of misophonia for you. What was it like?
I really noticed that like mouth noises and stuff like that were really bugging me around like the age of 8 or 9. Um, my mom and dad split when I was 2, and my mom remarried, and we quickly like moved to North Washington, and then we moved to Alaska, and then we moved to New Mexico, and then we
Mm,
moved back home to Albany, Oregon, and um, that was just like a lot of change for a kid before 8 or 9, and so
yeah.
I don't remember being triggered before that age. Maybe I was. Um, but my first memories of it were like sitting around the dinner table with um, my sisters and my three cousins, because my aunt and her kids lived in the same hometown. And I would just get so irrationally mad about them like chewing with their mouth open because our family didn't do that. And so I was like, why does your family do that? And like, I would just get
Mm,
so mad at my cousins. And then, of course, it was like, of course, you're going to tease your cousin. So then if I ever said anything, it was like they would do it 10 times worse.
mm.
So those are like the first memories of it, really.
Yeah. Did that spread then to back at home?
Um, I think so. I was asking my mom if she ever noticed that things bugged me, and um, she's like, "Oh, I don't like. I obviously didn't know you had misophonia because like no one knew what it was back then, but I just figured it was genetic because your dad was kind of like that. Like didn't like,
Your biological dad.
yeah, like he didn't like utensils scraping against bowls and like chewing noises and stuff like that. So, because I just kind of figured it was something genetic.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe about your dad, I guess. Did that? Do you know if that had anything to do with the um with what happened with him and your mom?
I don't think so. They kind of separated because my dad, he worked really hard and he had to travel a lot, and my mom didn't like that, but he was a a true traditional provider, and so
Mm-hmm.
he couldn't get out of that mindset of like I have to provide for my family, even though we didn't get to see him that much. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not like completely aware of all the dynamics because I was two, but
Yeah.
um, yeah,
So yeah, that sounds like it wasn't because of purely
it
because of
wasn't directly related to
anger
that, I
to
don't
misophonia
think.
and may right may be kind of the may have the traveling may have uh, maybe it may have actually helped the misophonia. Oh, I mean, I won't. I'm not going to get into analyzing that, but not being around maybe kind of was maybe better. Anyways, in just a miss. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. But you know what I mean. But let's
Yeah.
maybe have you talked to your dad? Did you get a chance to talk to your dad about misophonia since you knew kind of what it was? Since you've known it has a name and
Oh
all that.
yeah. So my older sister has it really bad, even though
Ah,
she's like weirdly in denial about it. But I can talk more about that later.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my sister has it. My older sister has it really bad, and my dad, and then my aunt on my dad's side. Um, and I'm pretty sure my grandpa probably had it. Um,
Hmm.
and then I have a cousin on my dad's side who definitely has it, and maybe one of his daughters has it. Um,
Mm.
but coming back around, it was the infamous New York Times article.
Hmm.
Um, my sister somehow found it back in like 2015 and forwarded it to me and my dad and said something like, it's about the disorder, whatever you two have. And I just like thought it was so funny because it's like, you have it too, hun. Like, don't fool yourself. And so then we sent it to my aunt, and like it's kind of the four of us like at family get-togethers will talk shop, like talk about our triggers and
Wow.
what really annoys us, and it's like a little like therapy session where we just get
Yeah,
to talk about all those
I love
things
it.
together. And yeah, so
I
we
had
definitely
Joyce
identified
Cohen
that
on
it's
the
like in our family.
yeah, I had
What was
Joyce
that?
Cohen on the podcast. The author I had the author of that article on the podcast a little earlier this year. The audio wasn't that great, but yeah, I got to talk to her about that. How that article all came about and whatnot, and how she actually picked the word misophonia versus some other things. And so yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear her talk about it. But anyways,
Yeah, I mean, I think she changed a lot of people's lives
heck
because
yeah.
it's like you can finally identify what is going on.
Well, you can say New York. It's in the New York Times. I mean, that's for some reason. For some people, that's all it
It's
takes to
real.
like. Yeah, yeah. Um, and so okay, so it spread from your sister in denial. Wow, a lot of people. Yeah, that's great to get you can all kind of get together, and it's probably you. So your big family gatherings are probably yeah. I mean, so these are all on your dad's side, right? All these people that you mentioned, pretty much.
Yeah, it's all on my dad's side. So
Mm,
the Cooks have some long line of misophonia issues.
yeah. Okay.
Um, yeah, it's interesting.
So Thanksgiving must be pretty. I mean, a lot of people dread it, but then for you guys, it must be pretty. Like everyone knows what's up, so you can
I know.
you can leave when you need to. People are probably more sensitive. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and for me, it's like not as bad if I'm like eating at the same time. If we all sit down together
Yeah.
and you're kind of distracted by discussion and everything. But yeah,
So then
in other
specifically
situations,
for
I'm like, I have to
you,
leave the room.
yeah, yeah. So then, yeah, specifically for you, I guess. So as you're getting older, after 8 and 9. How did Misophonia evolve for you, kind of getting into high school and college and whatnot?
I think it really contributed to like some test anxiety because
Mm,
I just remember having so much anxiety about going into a testing room and feeling like, what if I can't focus? What if I can't focus? And,
mm-hmm,
that was before we knew what this was, but anything could distract me, like the sniffing or someone tapping a shoe or, you know, tapping their pencil. Um, so I think it caused a lot of anxiety during school and especially
mm-hmm,
during college. I just remember being
mm,
in huge lecture halls and almost just like having I feel like I did leave a couple of times when I just could not handle it. But like
yeah,
you have to take the test.
right.
So you could avoid a lecture and maybe if they recorded it, listen to it later, but you can't avoid the test. And I just remember being so distracted during testing times.
And did you try to tell anybody, like your teachers?
No,
No.
no,
What about
I just like, I felt so like it was my
right?
issue, you know. I wish I
Did,
had have reached out,
did you try to?
but I
Did you
don't
tell
think
any
I was like,
friends? Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think I
Kind of
told people because
bottled it up, like a lot of us do.
you don't really know what it is and you just I could control it more with family because I could tell someone if they were annoying me or something. But I would really avoid trying to do that during early school and then college because I wanted to have friends and not have people think I was mean or
Mm-hmm.
judgy,
Mm-hmm. How did your family, all these people who had misophonia, express yourselves before you knew it had a name? Were you all just kind of glaring at each other?
Well, so one of my biggest things is I hate gum, like with a
Hmm.
passion. I think it's the worst
I've been
invention
hearing
of
about
all
gum a
time.
lot, even more than usual lately. Yeah,
And gum is like, I feel like it's the catalyst for my
some
auditory
asshole
triggers
made a lot
turning
of money
into
off
like,
gum like 100 years ago.
yeah, I feel like it's turning into a visual trigger. It's a smell
Oh, of
trigger.
course
If
it
I
will.
know
Yeah,
someone, you know, I can smell it and then I'm like, oh God. Um, but my dad and my sister will like purposely chew gum in the car and I will just have a fit. I'm like, you guys, you have this too. You understand how bad this is for me. And they're just like, whatever, hun. Like, we're going to chew our gum. You'll be fine. And they'll just like do it anyway.
okay. It's an interesting reaction from misophones.
It really is. But, and then on the other hand, like, that's the only situation I can think of where they're like really trying to taunt
Mm-hmm.
me with it because gum doesn't bother them. But like,
Mm.
more than not, they're supportive and I try to be supportive. Like my sister who's in denial, like for years at her one of her jobs that she could, break away and call me from, she would call me or text me and say, "Hun, oh my gosh, my cubemate is eating an apple again. I just can't handle this."
Mm.
and I'm like, yeah, you definitely haven't. Maybe even worse than me because you have to call someone to get
Right.
through it,
And so
you know.
how is she still in denial then? She just won't admit that
Um,
it's is she in denial about it being a real thing, or yeah, I'm just
oh
curious. What
no.
yeah.
No, but I think she's gonna kill me for this, but I think she's a little bit of a perfectionist and she doesn't want to have something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she
Yeah.
sounds like a perfectionist. I don't want. I'm trying to stir something up here between the sisters.
Oh yeah, she's gonna be stirred up because she thinks it's ridiculous that I've like, since finding your podcast and like other social media resources, like I got really excited about possibly
Hmm.
going to the convention. And like
Yeah.
I was serious about going to it and I like looked into it where it was gonna be and then COVID kind of hit. But I like was really excited when I told my sister about it. And she's like, "Hun, you are really getting into this too deep. You need to stop."
It's almost like you're
I'm
gonna
like,
almost
it's
sounds like you're gonna start a podcast and be one of those weirdos talking about
I
misophonia every week.
know, but I'm like, it's like therapy for me, hun. Like, this is a huge thing in my life.
Hmm.
Like, and I
Hmm.
think it is in yours too, but like, this is how you find coping mechanisms, you know?
Yeah, well, it's yeah. Even before the coping mechanisms, it's just when you go and you just meet other people, it's a surreal experience where you kind of feel super connected. You feel like you kind of understand like half of their psyche growing up. It's just this weird thing. So and that's just it's just kind of comforting to think about sometimes. Maybe after you've come
Yeah,
down from a trigger or something.
I've met a couple people in person where they've been like describing their feelings towards a sound or something. And I'll be like, "Do you have
Hmm.
misophonia?" And like kind
Hmm.
of say it, like just to
Hmm.
feel them out. And they're like, "Oh yeah, 100%." It's like finding someone in like a secret society
Yeah.
that
Oh yeah.
no one knows about, and you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, like what are your triggers and blah blah blah."
Yeah.
And it just feels like so familiar and um comforting, you know.
We need some kind of a silent handshake or some secret society,
I
maybe
know.
a gang sign. Okay, I'm gonna work on that before the convention in a couple
Throwing them
weeks.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but you're
Where's
right.
the
It's like
convention?
it's
There's
gonna
one
be
happening?
yeah, it's online. It was online last year. It was gonna be in Philly last year, and then with COVID it went online, and it's online again this year, and then hopefully it'll be in person, again next year. But
Oh, okay.
but yeah, um but yeah, if you go to me, so it'll be all the same people presenting. I'm presenting a little bit about 100 episodes, and yeah, so it'll be
Cool.
um it'll be interesting, and this will air long after it, but hopefully I'm sure it was a good event. um but yeah, well, hopefully I'll see you at future ones. I mean, like I said, it's a good time. And then I mean, obviously you can get away if anything's triggering, but they for like the foods that they order are like super soft and not kind of peanut butter kind of stuff. It's like soft muffins and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing is they only get venues where the it's like I forget which hotel type it is, but it's always like double sets of doors to the bedroom. So it's like there's the door, and then there's like a living space, and then there's another door to the bedroom area, so that everyone's like shielded extra from sound when you go to sleep.
Wow.
Now walls are another thing, but still,
Yeah.
it's the oh yeah, Embassy Suites always have that double door apparently. Anyways, this is not an
Oh
advertisement for Embassy
man.
Suites, but that's kind of how the association I guess picks their venues. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, getting back to actually I'm curious, like how did where did you meet some of these people in person that had misophonia? Just kind of maybe randomly at work or around town?
Yeah, just through like friends of friends.
Hmm.
Um I go to a lot of, events and getaways with
Yeah.
my friends and maybe something hasn't happened like so recently because I can't remember the last encountering.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, nobody can.
yeah.
Well, speaking of friends, your quote unquote friends at work. I say quote unquote for because of the behavior, the aforementioned behavior. But how are your did we talk about like how are your other friends, like your, out of work friends?
Yeah, I mean, people are aware of it. And
Don't
it
give a
almost
shit.
turns into like, well, no, like I have really sweet friends that, um, you know, maybe I mentioned to them once, like, try to make it into a joke, but it's not a joke. Like, oh my God, like you're doing this really loud, or like, why are you breathing so hard, or something like that. And I'm pretty good at opening up to people, so
Mm-hmm.
I've told my closest friends about it. And um, my friend in Tacoma here, we've like traveled together, we have lived together, and she's seriously like one of the best people I've ever traveled and lived with. But she does this like little half cough thing, and
Oh
I
God.
must have said
Yeah.
something to her one time, because now she'll like tell me like, I'm really trying not to do it around you. I know it really bugs you, but I just can't help it. And so it's like kind of, you know, not a joke, but it's like a known thing between us. And I know she tries not to do it, but it's like, okay, I have a really good friend and there's only one thing that triggers me. I call that a win, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You take what you can take, whatever we can get. Um,
Right.
yeah, it's interesting how you can it'd be interesting how you can turn breathing insensitives into a joke. That would be kind of funny to hear. But your then your I'm curious about your granddad. What made you think that he's misophonic? Were there kind of legendary family moments from your history?
He was just a really like irritable guy. And, um, like little things would bug him. Like I went to his retirement home once, and I was like, "Oh, Grandpa, was that the boat you were on?" Because he was in the Navy, and
Hmm.
she, she, he just looks at me and he's like, "It's a ship," and I'm like 10 or something. Like I have no idea.
Yeah,
And that was, he had a hard side, but looking back, like I could tell that he also had a really soft and tender side.
hmm,
And I don't know if a lot of um misophones struggle with that like I do, but it's like you feel like you come off mean and judgy, but you are really soft on the other side.
yeah. I hear it all the time. I
Um
mean, it seems like we're highly sensitive, highly self hypersensitive, highly aware, and highly able to kind of like maybe overly read the room and get anxious about how we're being perceived, or yeah, I mean, and everything related to that. Is that kind of what you were maybe seeing?
yeah, and it's hard to have like uh I just call it freely a disorder now.
Yeah.
Since yeah. Um I think it was the last um oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. You had a scholar that was studying in England. I think she was a PhD, but she said, we've identified as a disorder now. Um, and I was really excited about that. Um, but it's like it's hard to have your personality kind of defined by a disorder a little bit, because maybe your personality is that you are like super friendly and outgoing, and then you have this thing that just crops up, and it's like the opposite of being outgoing and want to go do every event, because there's also anxiety with it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Disorder is a bit of a right. It's a bit of a loaded term. I think, um, simple minds think it's just like you're messed up in general. When it's more like
But
we're,
I'm okay with that. I'm like,
yeah,
well, obviously something is happening on a chemical synapse, whatever they want to
Mm-hmm.
call it, type thing. And I don't feel like it's something that should be stigmatized. Like, if someone told me tomorrow, like, okay, there's a medication for it, or you have to do this specific therapy, I wouldn't care what it was. I would do it. And,
Mm-hmm.
like, I wouldn't care if it was called a mental health issue or something like that. I would just want to pursue taking care of it and,
No,
living a better quality life.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I was saying that, you having it, yeah, I'm fine with calling whatever and whatever's giving the treatment. But for other people, like, just calling something a disorder, like you said, doesn't, fully describe how we're kind of like almost like two minds in one, like a Jekyll and Hyde situation or Incredible
That's
Hulk and Bruce
true.
Banner kind of situation where it's, we're normal and maybe actually extra funny, extra nice because we're hyper aware, like very hyper observant. And then this other side, when you cross the line, then it's kind of game over.
Right. Yeah.
And so, what are you kind of your, I guess, day to day coping mechanisms, in terms of, I don't know, like, headphones and stuff? But when you go out in the world or when you're sitting at your desk, what do you, how do you keep sane? Well, I guess you're now sitting at your home desk, but, yeah, what are some of the things you do?
Yeah, I have a fan on at night every night as my little like white noise protector, and I don't think I necessarily need it where I live now, but I've done it for so many years that it's
Mm-hmm.
like kind of a sleep crutch. Like, I don't feel right if I don't have the white noise. Um I definitely just fell in love with noise canceling headphones like
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago. I like finally, had the finances to like buy a really good pair, and I take that on any plane ride I'm going on, or if I'm going to be staying in a hotel or something like that where I know I'm not going to be able to control what's going on. I've tried earplugs before, but like they kind of just make me feel stuffy. Like you kind of wake up and you're like, oh, like my ears didn't get to breathe all night. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I mostly just depend on white noise.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like if I'm just having a triggered day or whatever, I'll like go in my bathroom and turn on all the fans and like take a bath. And so you're
Mm.
kind of like in your own little white noise
Yeah, white noise spa.
bathroom, situation. White noise spa. Yeah. That's usually really relaxing for me.
Yeah.
Um, and then a lot of avoidance measures, just like not going to things that you know you're going to be triggered at. Like, I love going to the movies, but I know like 100%
That's a
of the
risky affair.
time
Right.
someone will be doing something that annoys me. And,
You gotta
I
hit
feel
those
like it's,
10 a.m. matinees.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. An empty theater to yourself. That's the best. Um, it has been better with COVID though. I mean, they can't fill a full theater,
Right.
so you have a space in between you. So that's been a little bit better. Do you
How about,
avoid movies at all costs?
yeah, oh yeah, movie theaters. Yeah, I went to see Mary Poppins with, because my, we just took my daughter to that, but it was, it was one of those theaters with like giant lazy boy seats that you had to reserve in advance, and then there was a bar outside where, that in the theater where you can, order a beverage, and that just knocked out all the adults. So
Oh,
I wasn't even awake for so that helps. But yeah, before that, I don't remember the last movie I saw, and I don't have any plans to. I mean, I just like to watch the movie at home. I got a nice set of speakers, and
yeah.
That's all I kind of need, and then whatever snacks and drinks I want. Um, what about I don't know, like I don't want to pry into like maybe significant other situations for you. Has this ever how's this kind of played out?
Um, my last serious relationship ended in like 2016.
Hmm.
Um, and that was like I found my family found that article in the New York Times in like 2015.
Hmm.
So like all of my big relationships, I wasn't able to really like tell them what was wrong, but
Hmm.
there were things where I'd be like, okay, please, like, don't
Shut
do
the fuck up.
that. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, like, I'm going insane right now. Like, please don't chew gum in the car or maybe like ever around me. Um, but like, since I've been dating, since then, like, I don't really tell significant others. I weirdly have been lucky in like not getting hit with people that are like super annoying in triggering ways.
Hmm.
Like the guy I'm seeing now, he has no idea that like I have this issue or that I was doing this
Mm.
interview tonight. But like he doesn't do anything that really annoys me. So
Right. That's
I
good.
don't
That's
know.
cute. Hopefully it stays that way. Interesting. Okay.
Like he
Yes.
snores, which can be annoying, but I don't know. It hasn't triggered me that much. I feel like it's because I'm getting a break with working from home. I'm really not having to deal with triggers that often. So
Mm.
maybe
Yeah.
that's
You can
helped.
always return home and
Yeah.
um yeah, I'd be curious to, I'm sure everyone listening will be curious to see how this plays out, whether Allison finds sonic peace with this gentleman.
I know.
Well, yeah, well, we're all rooting for you. Everyone who listens to this
Thanks.
podcast, but no pressure.
Yeah, we'll see.
But no, but that's good. But before, I mean, before you knew it had a name and whatnot, was it kind of an issue then with some people, and did it turn into like something that's difficult to explain and potentially a conflict?
Yeah, I mean, I so I'm a biologist and I had a lot of like seasonal positions before I
Mm,
got into like a career level permanent position. And so like I just remember situations like I had this one job where I was out on this project where we had to count amphibians in streams and we were camping out in the field 4 days a week.
mm,
And so we were all camping together and everyone would like group their chairs up into this little circle, at night to like hang out and or like in the morning for breakfast. And people would like, while you're eating breakfast, come sit down and like brush their teeth in front of you. And I
oh my
would just like
God.
get so grossed out and be like, I finally, had to say something like, can you like go do that somewhere else? Like a little side tourist bathroom area. I don't know. And people just thought I was so insane over it. If it didn't
Right.
bother anybody else. But for me, it was just like, oh, not again. And, that's like isolating when everyone else was like, no, it's just you. Like, we don't all have to change because of you.
Yeah, right. It's funny.
Yeah.
I talked to I did recently what I think of maybe last season I interviewed a marine biologist up in the islands east west of Seattle. So again, another connection, not just a Pacific Northwest connection. Maybe there's a could be a little marine biology or a biologist meetup
Oh,
firms up
yeah.
in
That
the
would be
Pacific
great.
Northwest. Or maybe I'll I'll connect you guys maybe after. Anyways, interesting. Okay. Did we talk about did you ever go to see any professionals about this? I mean, especially if you're around there, you're probably near not too far from Dr. Marsha Johnson. I'm curious in general if you've talked about this if you've gone to any professional for mental health kind of stuff or audiology and talked about misophonia.
I haven't, and um, I think I've found ways to like like not self
Mm-hmm.
medicate, but like I went on anti anxiety and depression medication in 2016. Um, and although I do think I have like, some depression issues, a lot of my anxiety comes from misophonia issues. So I like to think that that takes a little bit of the edge off.
Mm,
Um, I don't know. I don't, I'm not 100% sure, but, my doctors never knew what misophonia was if I brought it up. And I just found a new primary care provider here in Tacoma, and I felt really comfortable with her. And she spent a lot of time with me, like trying to figure out my medical history. And I told her, like, yeah, I have misophonia. And she didn't like do anything judgy, but she had no idea what it was. She had never heard of it. And
yeah.
I guess I had told her because I thought that it was getting more mainstream and maybe she would know. But it was
Right.
still like zero recognition of it. And I've like looked into therapy or counseling resources of people who know what it is, but there's just nothing um, in my area that I've found yet. Um, I would love to go,
Mm,
but I just haven't found that as a
mm-hmm,
resource.
mm-hmm.
And I don't really, the thing is like, I don't really want to go to someone who doesn't know what it is to work on it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like, I only
Um,
think it would be beneficial if they actually know.
yeah. A lot of time has been wasted, and you end up educating them, and I haven't really heard of those situations going longer than maybe a couple sessions before you just like give up. Um, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
there must be a way to like do some research in advance and see if they know what's going on. But
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, okay. Um, yeah. So I mean, yeah, we're heading up close to an hour. Yeah, I'm curious. Anything else you wanna share with people about Miss Fun? Anything you want to tell people?
I don't know. I guess I just want to say again how much I appreciate your podcast. And everyone's story is a little bit of therapy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And um, it's like it takes a village. I mean, I would love to talk to people one on one. I found some like certain Instagram accounts or whatever, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
follow them. But I think one on one interaction is definitely better. And I know that because, my family members who have it. I cannot imagine being the only person in your family that has it and not at least having some kind of confidants in your
I was
family.
gonna
So if
say it's good
anyone
to have
wants,
like a buddy, like your sister who's in
yeah,
denial. It comes to you.
she is, but
I mean, if she
she
needs
still
it,
talks about
then
her
we
triggers
all
all
need
the
it.
time. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Cool. Well, yeah, Allison, thanks for coming on. Yeah, it's super interesting. Especially hearing about that. Well, a lot of things, but especially hearing about the family perspective. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about how it seems to kind of like extend beyond yourself and in through your family. For some people, it's completely isolating. But interesting to see how it's been a few generations for you. And
yeah.
yeah, and like I said, we
And I
wish
hope
you
if I
and
have kids, I don't pass it on.
yeah, right. Of course. Of course. That's, yet another thing that we just don't know enough. And so we're all kind of anxious about that. as if we need any more anxiety. Cool. Well, yeah. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much, Adil. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you, Allison. Great talking to you. If you like this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this show. You can hit me up by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or go to the website, misophoniapodcast.com. And the easiest way to reach me might be actually on Instagram at Misophonia Podcast, also on Facebook and Twitter. If you want to support the show financially, you can visit patreon.com/Misophonia Podcast. Theme music, as always, is by Moby. And until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.